After my brother went bankrupt, I was handed over to a DC power player to settle his debt. I was with him for 3 years, only to find out I was pregnant. That night, I carefully tried to sound him out. "Do you like kids?" His calm eyes seemed to see right through me. "No. They're a hassle. And having one out of wedlock is an even bigger hassle." My heart sank. I knew it was time for me to leave. But less than a month later, Evan Foster himself threw me over his shoulder, bedsheets and all. His voice was terrifyingly low. "The debt isn't paid off. You're not getting away that easily." I was half asleep when I heard the bedroom door open. A pair of eyes settled on me, lingering for a long time. A moment later, a pair of arms, cool and smelling faintly of damp night air, pulled me into an embrace. The hint of alcohol on his breath made me frown. I groggily lifted my head to look at Evan. "You been drinking?" Evan's voice was husky. "Just a little. Had some business to take care of." I nodded, my mind still fuzzy, but the man's hands were already wandering. His calloused fingers expertly slipped under my pajamas, already knowing all my sensitive spots. I was so tired I just wanted to sleep. I turned and snuggled into his arms, wrapping my own around his lean waist and pressing my face against his broad chest. "Let's just sleep," I mumbled. "I'm so tired today." Evan's hand caressed my cheek, and a second later, his dry lips pressed down on mine. I heard his raspy voice again. "You don't have to do any of the work. What's there to be tired about?" With that, his hand clamped down on my waist, and he flipped me over, pinning me beneath him. His searing kisses trailed down my neck, my chest. He caught the hands I was using to push him away and pinned them above my head. At that moment, I was a lamb to the slaughter. My pajamas were quickly stripped away, and his own robe was tossed aside at some point. I was forced to endure his forceful, demanding movements, again and again. When I woke up, it was already almost 11 a.m. Evan was long gone. My body had been washed clean, the stickiness of last night had vanished. I grabbed the robe from the side of the bed and put it on. The moment I stood up, my legs gave out and I almost collapsed. Looking at the red marks covering my body, I couldn't help but curse him in my head. He's such a perfect gentleman in public, but in bed, he's a total animal, and I'm his chew toy. All that biting and gnawing. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while before I could get up and go downstairs. Mrs. Davis was cleaning. When she saw me, she immediately said, "Miss Stella, you're awake. I made some herbal chicken soup. Let me get you a bowl." As the scent of chicken soup wafted from the kitchen, my stomach suddenly churned. I covered my nose and quickly said, "No, thanks. I just woke up, I can't eat." Mrs. Davis looked taken aback. It was probably rare for her to see me without an appetite. After all, there were times when Evan had worn me out so much that I devoured a whole chicken in one sitting, a feat that had shocked her for quite some time. Later, Mrs. Davis made me some rice porridge and side dishes. As I was happily eating, I got a text from my friend Mia, who was in the same boat as me. "You up?" "Yeah, what's up?" "Wanna go shopping?" "Huh, you know me so well. I got a card from Alex last night with a 50,000 limit. I'm treating today." I teased her back. "Getting that 50K couldn't have been easy. Haven't seen you in days. You must have spent the whole time in bed to earn that." All she sent back was a long string of ellipses. Mia and I met at the mall that afternoon and started by getting some bubble tea. But not far away, I saw a familiar figure from behind. It was Evan. Except there was a woman with him, not his mother, not his sister. It was a woman I'd never seen before. Mia followed my gaze. Then I saw her eyes dart away as she tried to pull me in the other direction. Knowing her, something was definitely up. After some threats and cajoling on my part, Mia finally hesitated and said, "I heard this from that asshole Alex. He said Evan's one that got away is back." "The one that got away?" "Yeah. I heard she's 6 years older than him. She married some guy and moved overseas, but I guess she got divorced and came back. For some reason, a pang of bitterness bloomed in my chest. I quickly shook my head to clear it. I should be happy. The person Evan liked was back, which meant he might let me go sooner. Mia watched me nervously. Are you upset? I forced a smile. For me, it's always been physical, never emotional. A flicker of sadness crossed Mia's eyes. Right. It can only ever be physical. After shopping for a long time, Mia picked a restaurant for lunch. But before the food even arrived, the nausea from the morning returned. I rushed to the restroom, feeling like I was going to throw up but couldn't. Mia ran in after me, worried. I splashed some cold water on my face and managed a weak smile for her. Mia suddenly seemed to have a thought. She leaned in close and whispered, "Stella, have you gotten your period this month?" Her question made me realize my period was over 2 weeks late. Seeing me stare at her blankly, Mia said, "Stella, you don't think you're pregnant, do you?" My mouth fell open. "No, that's not possible," I said slowly. "We've always been." Then I remembered. That one time, about a month ago, Evan had been drugged. He had pulled me into the car and we'd done it again and again. He was in such a rush, he didn't use. Thinking of that, I slowly looked down at my stomach. No way. We got pregnant from that one time we were careless? My fears were confirmed at the clinic. When the doctor handed me the report confirming I was 5 weeks pregnant, I felt like my world was collapsing. But before it could fully crumble, my attention was caught by Evan and his one that got away, Clara, standing at the hospital entrance, being personally greeted by the hospital director. I watched as they walked into the OB/GYN department together. On some strange impulse, I followed them. I hid around a corner not far away. A long time later, Evan and Clara came out. Clara's eyes were shining as she looked at Evan, waving the test results in her hand. A smile touched Evan's lips. People were constantly walking by. Evan's voice was faint and broken up, but I still managed to catch the keywords. This baby. Perfect timing. It's a true symbol of our love. Clara excitedly grabbed Evan's arm. He paused for a second, then his eyes softened as he looked down at her with a smile. A handsome man, a beautiful woman. What a perfect couple. In that instant, the world started spinning. Mia quickly steadied me. I sat on a hospital bench for I don't know how long. I touched my stomach. I shouldn't have let myself dream. I gave a bitter laugh, but I couldn't stop my eyes from welling up. Mia hugged me, her heart aching for me. She couldn't stop cursing him, calling him a scumbag who played around so much. Wasn't he afraid of catching something? I pushed down the pain in my heart and shook my head at her. Evan didn't come back until very late that night. I had been waiting on the sofa for a long time. He seemed surprised to see me still awake. "Why are you still up?" I smiled. "I wanted to wait for you so we could sleep together." As I said it, I stood up, walked over, and wrapped my arms around his waist. The faint scent of a woman's perfume on his clothes made my heart plummet. I had gotten greedy. I'd fallen for my sugar daddy and tried to possess him completely. After his shower, he was drying his hair when I spoke, trying to sound casual. "Evan, do you like kids?" The hand toweling his hair paused. Then I heard his flat voice. "No. They're a hassle. And having one out of wedlock is an even bigger hassle." Even though I already knew the answer, hearing him say it himself still made my heart ache. His deep eyes stared at me as if he could see right through me. I forced a smile. "I was just curious what a guy like you would be like with a kid. I'm going to bed." With that, I wrapped myself in the blankets, fighting back tears no matter how much it hurt. "Don't cry. It would be a disaster if the sugar daddy found out his little canary was pregnant." So, over the next few days, I paid close attention to Evan's schedule. When I heard he was going to Australia for a business trip next week, I sent a text to a certain number. Evan was very busy for the next few days, working late into the night every day. Every evening, I would sit on the living room sofa waiting for him, hugging my knees and staring into space. When Evan came through the door and saw me, he frowned and impatiently tugged at his tie. Then he said flatly, "You don't have to wait up for me anymore." I lowered my head and gave a bitter smile, taking the suit jacket he'd taken off. It carried the faint scent of jasmine, not my scent, and not Evan's. It was obvious whose it was. Evan had started sleeping in the study. The man who used to want me almost every night had suddenly grown cold. Was he trying to draw a line between us? The next night, I waited and waited for him, and at some point, I fell asleep. When I woke up again, it was already bright daylight, and I was still on the sofa. A blanket was draped over me. I lifted my wrist to look at my watch. It was already 7 a.m. Perhaps it was my emotional state, but the smell of the side dishes the housekeeper placed in front of me made me feel sick. I spent a long time dry heaving in the bathroom. The housekeeper asked worriedly if she should call the family doctor. I waved my hand. No need. I just didn't sleep well last night. I stayed in bed all day, with no appetite and no energy. At some point, Evan came back. He seemed exhausted. He went straight to the bathroom for a shower when he got home. I lay motionless in bed. It took him a long while to even notice I was there. But he didn't seem to notice anything was wrong. He just said flatly, "The latest from Hermes is in the closet for you." I forced a smile. "Thank you, Mr. Foster." Evan, who was drying his hair, froze for a second, then looked at me. "What did you call me?" "Mr. Foster." Evan suddenly let out a small laugh, then walked towards me in a few steps. He leaned down, his deep eyes staring straight into mine. "Why not Evan anymore?" I smiled. "You are my boss, after all. I should show some respect." Evan's brow furrowed with what looked like impatience. He stared at me for a long time before saying coldly, "Suit yourself." It was true that my brother went bankrupt 3 years ago, but me being handed over to Evan to pay off the debt, that was something I had begged my brother to do. My brother had wanted to take me abroad with him, but I didn't want to go. I wanted to take a gamble, to fight for the crush I'd had on him for so many years. Even if I couldn't have his heart, I wanted to have him, just once. So when I showed up at Evan's door that year, alone and drenched in rain, he seemed completely stunned. I explained why I was there. His face darkened, and he let out a frustrated curse. He furiously tried to call my brother, but just as I'd instructed, my brother had already turned off his phone. So Evan couldn't reach him. That night, I fainted in front of him from a fever caused by the rain. He had no choice but to let me stay. Since my brother did owe him a lot of money, I stayed by his side under the guise of paying off the debt. Then, one night when he was drunk, I managed to get him into bed. From that point on, it was like a new world had opened up for Evan. He became insatiable. Everyone in his circle knew about me. At first, they would tease me, asking how it felt to go from a wealthy heiress to someone's mistress. But the words would barely leave their lips before a single glare from Evan would shut them up. In the beginning, I thought maybe he had some feelings for me. Until one time, a business partner asked him if he was just playing around with me. Evan didn't say a word, and in that moment, I knew I had lost my bet. But even so, there were no other women in his life. Besides, he was handsome and great in bed, so I gradually convinced myself that a purely physical relationship was fine. I just never expected him to have someone he loved, and that she was now back by his side. At that moment, I knew it was time for me to leave. Now, my brother was looking at me with worry, then he tried to sound casual. "Stella, there are plenty of fish in the sea. I'll find you someone even more handsome. You have no idea how many hot guys there are overseas." I gave my brother a faint smile and said, "No need, Jason. I'm pregnant. From now on, all I need is you and the baby." My brother shot up as if he'd been electrocuted, his eyes wide. "Evans?" "Yeah. That son of a bitch. I'm going to make him pay." I quickly grabbed my brother's arm. Jason, he doesn't know. I don't like him anymore. Right now, I just want to be with you. My brother's expression softened as he stroked my head. He sighed. This is all my fault. If I hadn't gone bankrupt back then, you never would have had to go through this. But Stella, trust me. I've almost paid off all the debts. Things are going to get better for us. I know, Jason. I believe you. My brother is very busy now, so I spend most of my time at home alone. One day, I suddenly heard a knock at the door. I thought it was my brother without his key. When I opened the door and was about to speak, I saw an incredibly familiar face. Evan. I was so scared I tried to slam the door shut. His large hand gripped my chin tightly. But I'm not done. I had to hand it to him. With his perfect girlfriend at home, he still had the energy to chase after me. Wasn't he tired? Wasn't he afraid of working himself to death? The driver must have heard the commotion between me and Evan because he discreetly raised the partition. In the confined space, it was just the two of us. With a sudden pull, he yanked me onto his lap. I was wearing sleepwear that could pass for loungewear, but the fabric was thin. He was still in his suit, and the custom material was a bit slippery. I tried to shift away from him, but the slick fabric made me slide right back, landing hard. I seemed to have landed on something very specific. Evan grunted, a frown on his face. He looked at me, his eyes dark, and the hand on my waist tightened. He held me firmly in his arms, my face incredibly close to his. The man's deep voice rumbled, trying to break it. Feeling his body's reaction, my face flushed against my will. Who told you to hold me? His rough hand tilted my chin up. I'm holding you because I want to. I couldn't win the struggle, so I turned my head away. Evan seemed to let out a soft sigh, and then I felt him rest his head on my shoulder. His warm breath ghosted over my ear, tickling my neck. I couldn't stand it anymore. I turned back to ask him what he was doing, only to find his eyes closed, his breathing deep and even. He seemed to be asleep. Only then did I notice the stubble on his chin, looking like he hadn't shaved in days. He looked so tired. My hand moved on its own, wanting to touch his face, but I quickly came to my senses. He didn't need my pity anymore. I pulled my hand back. Soon we arrived at the airport. Evan draped his jacket over me and pulled me out of the car. But as soon as we got out, I saw my brother standing not far away. I couldn't help but cry out, Jason. Evan pulled me behind him. My brother walked a few steps closer and said slowly, Evan, give me my sister back. Evan let out a cold laugh. Jason, does a guy who uses his sister to pay off debts even deserve to have a sister? My brother was clearly angered by the jab. Evan, what are you trying to prove? If it wasn't for Stella back then. Jason. I immediately cut my brother off. Evan looked at me strangely. I lowered my head, feeling a pang of guilt. Evan turned back to my brother. What? What about Stella? My brother laughed mockingly. Whatever happened with Stella has nothing to do with you. Then he looked at me. Let's go, Stella. Come home with me. My hand struggled in Evan's grasp, but for some reason, his grip only tightened. Looking into his intense gaze, my struggles began to slow. Just then, his phone rang. As he picked it up, I saw the name Clara on the screen. In an instant, I snapped back to reality. I looked up at him slowly. Evan, let me go. My brother and I will pay you back what we owe, slowly. Don't make me hate you. At my last words, Evan's tight grip on my hand loosened. His eyes were fixed on my face, the light in them scattered and broken. I slowly pulled my hand away. I walked straight to my brother. Behind me, I thought I heard Evan give a soft, bitter laugh. I could have sworn I heard pain and sadness in that sound, but I must have misheard. I didn't say a word the entire way back. After a long while, I heard my brother tentatively ask. You like him that much? I looked out the window, my voice hoarse. I don't want to like him anymore. A few days later, my brother told me he'd heard from a friend that Evan hadn't returned to the States. Feeling uneasy, my brother wanted to hire a few bodyguards to protect me. I smiled and said it wasn't necessary. I knew Evan too well. He wouldn't do something so over the top a second time, especially after I had so clearly rejected him. A few days later, I got a call from Mia. Stella, where are you? I just found out from that jerk Alex what's been going on with you. I'm at my brother's place now. I'm fine, don't worry. There was a hint of envy in Mia's voice. Stella, you can finally live your own life now. I could hear the sadness in her tone. In 3 years, we had become the closest of friends. After a moment, I said slowly, Mia, if you want to leave Alex, I can help you. Mia was silent for a long time after hearing my words. Stella, Alex is getting married. Mia, I remember you hadn't even finished college when you got with Alex. Have you ever thought about studying abroad? Mia paused, then her voice came back, firm. Yes. Okay. Leave the rest to me. Within a few days, I had arranged for a school. Since Mia's mother had passed away 6 months ago, she had no other family in the city. She was soon on her way to start her new life. The very next day, a furious Alex showed up at my house, with Evan trailing behind him. Compared to Alex's rage, Evan looked even more dejected. Since my brother wasn't home, Alex and his men got in easily. The usually laid-back Alex was furious, but with Evan there, he seemed to be trying his best to keep it together. Stella, where's Mia? I sat lazily on the sofa, my gaze drifting over the two men. She's gone. Alex took a step forward but was pulled back by Evan. Evan's voice was hoarse. Alex, control yourself. Alex yanked his arm away. You didn't seem to be controlling yourself when you couldn't find Stella and dragged me out in the middle of the night. Evan shot a guilty look at me, then said sharply, Alex. I glanced at Evan, confused. His eyes met mine for a second before he quickly looked away. Alex seemed determined not to leave without an answer. I looked up at him and chuckled softly. Mia said you're getting married? Alex froze. She left because of that? My eyes swept over the two men before me. Or did you want to have your perfect fiancé at home and a mistress on the side? Alex looked flustered. I never planned on getting married. That was all my family's doing. I never agreed to it. Then what is Mia to you? Alex suddenly seemed awkward. I want to tell her that in person. I'll ask Mia if she wants to talk to you. Alex started to say something else but was stopped by Evan. Just then, the smell of cooking wafted from the kitchen. The smell wasn't strong, but since getting pregnant, my sense of smell had become incredibly sensitive. The scent made my stomach roll, and I bolted for the bathroom, though there was nothing to throw up. I hadn't eaten much that morning, and my stomach was empty. The moment I reached the bathroom, Evan rushed in. Seeing me dry heaving, he said with a panicked look, Stella, what's wrong? I was about to wave him away when another wave of nausea hit. The next second, Evan swept me up into his arms. I cried out in surprise and instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck. Evan, put me down, I demanded. Evan's face was terrifyingly grim. Is this how your brother takes care of you? We're going to the hospital. What does my brother have to do with this? You've only been back a few days. You were already skinny, and now you're even thinner and throwing up. That has nothing to do with my brother. How does it not? I struggled, trying to get him to put me down, but he was incredibly strong. The housekeeper and Alex, who were standing outside, were stunned to see us emerge from the bathroom like that. Alex's eyes widened, and he couldn't help but give Evan a thumbs up. Damn, Evan, you don't mess around. Just carry her home like that. Evan's tone was sharp. Cut the crap. Drive us to the hospital. Alex looked confused for a second, then quickly recovered. Right, right? The housekeeper tried to step forward and stop us but was scared back by a single glare from Evan. All she could do was yell, "Call Mr. Sue." I was forced into the car, and Evan sat right next to me. Alex jumped into the driver's seat right after. I struggled to get out the other side, but Evan held me down by the shoulder. "Evan, this is kidnapping." I heard him let out a cold laugh. "If you don't behave, I'm going to kiss you." I immediately clapped a hand over my mouth. "You. Have you no shame?" "Nope." Before I could say anything else, I heard Alex chuckle from the front seat. Evan and I spoke in unison. "What are you laughing at?" "Great." Now Alex was laughing even harder. I started plotting how to escape once we got to the hospital. I didn't want to tell Evan about the baby just yet. But my thoughts were constantly interrupted by Alex, who relentlessly asked about Mia's whereabouts. I brushed him off each time. Soon, we arrived at the hospital. The moment I got out of the car, Evan picked me up again. Passers-by kept turning to stare at us. My face turned red against my will. "Put me down. I can walk by myself." But Evan seemed to know something. He looked at me and said flatly, "Stella, do you know that you pick at your fingers when you're feeling guilty?" "Huh?" I followed his gaze and saw that my fingers were indeed fiddling with each other. I quickly stopped. No, I don't." Evan didn't say anything more, just strode forward. His voice floated back, light as air. "If you don't let me carry you nicely, I don't mind throwing you over my shoulder." "You." Soon, Evan brought me inside the hospital. It was a private hospital where he was a shareholder. So, within 10 minutes, I was sitting in front of a doctor. The doctor asked me what was wrong. I turned my head away and didn't speak. The doctor looked at Evan, troubled. Evan spoke directly. "She's nauseous, and it's severe." The doctor asked a series of questions. I remained silent, but Evan answered them all fluently. He only faltered when the doctor asked about my recent diet, because we had been apart for almost half a month. The doctor ordered a series of tests. I didn't want to go, but I had no choice. Soon, the results were placed in front of Evan. The doctor looked at them and said, "Miss Sue is almost 2 months pregnant." Evan's gaze slowly fell on me. Alex stood at the door, a look of pure glee on his face, even giving Evan a thumbs up. It wasn't until we were out of the examination room that Evan, standing beside me, finally spoke. "Why didn't you tell me? If I hadn't brought you to the hospital, were you never going to tell me?" I looked at him calmly. "Evan, if I had told you, what would you have done?" Before he could finish, I cut him off. "You told me you don't like kids, especially ones born out of wedlock. They're a hassle." Evan was stunned by my words. I didn't want to say any more and turned to leave. Evan tried to grab me, but just then, my brother's voice came from the other end of the hallway. "Stella." "Jason, I'm here." My brother quickly came over and stood in front of me. Next to him was a handsome man I vaguely recognized. I later remembered he was one of my brother's best friends from high school. He gently touched my shoulder, signaling me not to be afraid. My brother looked straight at Evan. "Evan, what right do you have to take my sister?" Evan's eyes were still fixed on me, as if he hadn't heard my brother at all. Then his gaze shifted to the man beside me. Instantly, the atmosphere around Evan grew heavy and cold. After a long pause, I heard his low voice. "Stella, I'll answer your question now. First, I will marry you. Second, it's true I don't like kids. My mother died from complications while giving birth to my sister. I'll never forget that day. When she went to the hospital, she smiled and told me she'd make me sweet rice balls when she got back. But the next time I saw her, she was just a cold body. And my father. Not even a month after my mom was gone, he brought another woman home. That woman had a son, only a year or two younger than me. He even wanted to give the family business, the one my mom had worked so hard to help him build, to that illegitimate son. My brother had told me about both of these things, but I never knew they were such deep wounds for him. I had only seen him, as an adult, ruthlessly drive his father and stepmother's family abroad. Maybe he couldn't bring himself to be completely merciless in the end, as he still gave his father a small overseas company to manage. Hearing his explanation, my heart trembled for some reason. My hand tightened on the corner of my brother's shirt without me realizing it. A moment later, I laughed at myself. "Evan, Clara is still waiting for you at home." Evan looked confused. "What does Clara have to do with this?" "Evan, I know everything." With that, I took my brother's arm and left, but I could feel an intense gaze fixed on my back the entire time. That night, lying in bed, I thought about what my brother had said to me later. "Do you like Evan that much?" Yes, I liked him a lot. This feeling could be traced back to my freshman year of college, when I went to a bar with my roommate. Two naive young women quickly became prey for others. And that's how Evan appeared before me. He kicked the man in front of me to the ground. It was such a cliched scene, but it made me unable to forget him. Later, I saw him again at several business events. I asked my brother about him. My brother told me to stay away from him, saying he was a manipulative and ruthless man. But I didn't think so. How bad could a person who saved someone be? I made a point of appearing in front of him several times, and I succeeded in making him remember my name. And then, I took the initiative to become his kept woman. I thought that by being close to him, I could win his heart, but it seemed I had failed. My mind was still lost in sadness when a tapping sound on the window jolted me out of it. Confused, I pulled open the curtains and saw Evan clinging to the window in a strange position. He whispered, "Stella, open the window. I have something to say to you." I didn't want to deal with him and was about to close the curtains. But then I saw him sway unsteadily, which scared me so much I immediately opened the window. "What are you doing? This is the 3rd floor. Are you trying to get yourself killed?" Evan seized the opportunity and jumped in through the window, not looking unsteady at all. I was about to speak when he said, "Don't say anything yet. Just listen to me." Evan moved closer to me, his voice urgent. "First, I think you've misunderstood me. There's nothing going on between me and Clara. I was taking care of her recently because her ex-husband, my cousin, asked me to. He's dealing with some serious issues and couldn't come back to be with her, so he asked for my help. I admit I had a crush on her during my teenage years and almost confessed, but as I got older, I realized it wasn't love, just a kind of dependence. Second, the person I love is you, Stella. I don't know when it started, but I found myself wanting to be with you all the time. You're sweet and innocent, but also warm and lively. All those things about you, things I lost a long time ago, draw me in. I fell for you, shamelessly. Third, I admit it was my fault for not explaining Clara's identity to you right away. I wanted to see if you cared that there was another woman by my side. I wanted to be your partner, not just your sugar daddy. But I regret it now. Even if you just see me as your sugar daddy, I'll take it. I have a lot of money, much more than your brother. Stella, I'll give it all to you. Just don't leave, okay?" The man lowered his head in front of me, the corners of his eyes red. His hands were clenched into tight fists at his sides. I looked at him and suddenly started to laugh. Then my laughter turned into tears. Evan frantically tried to wipe my tears away. "Don't cry. If you really don't want to see me, I'll leave. Just don't cry." I punched him on the shoulder. "Evan, I hate you." As I did, I tripped over the leg of a chair and fell straight into his arms. His unique scent enveloped me. His gaze lowered, lingering on my lips. Slowly, he bent his head towards me. But he only gently wiped away my tears, then pulled me into his embrace. "It's all my fault. Please don't cry, okay?" I cried for a long time before I finally calmed down. Evan spoke carefully, "So, Stella, you like me too, right?" He looked at me, a flicker of anxiety in his eyes. If I didn't like you, I wouldn't have slept with you. Do you think I'm like that with just anyone? Evan chuckled softly and pulled me tightly into his arms. I heard him whisper, "This is great, this is so great." But I cut him off. What's so great? I never said I forgive you. Then I pushed him towards the window. You should go. Stella. Hurry up. It felt so good to be the one giving orders. Watching this tall, elegant man climb down from the window like a thief was incredibly satisfying. I slept exceptionally well that night, better than I had in a long, long time. When I left my room, I saw my brother sitting on the sofa talking to a man. The man looked very familiar. It was Evan. My brother saw me and waved me over. For once, Evan was dressed very conservatively, looking like a schoolboy called into the principal's office. On the table was a contract. My brother glanced impatiently at Evan, then at me. Stella, some things you have to decide for yourself. Evan says he's willing to transfer all his assets to you as a marriage settlement. Here's the agreement, take a look. I numbly picked up the contract. It listed every single one of Evan's assets in clear detail. This was everything he had fought tooth and nail to win back from his father and stepmother. And now he was handing it all over to me. I clenched my fists. Are you serious? Evan nodded solemnly. He nervously clenched the hands resting on his lap. None of this is as important as you. I was trying so hard not to smile. A second later, I turned to my brother. My brother saw my ridiculous expression and looked exasperated. After a long moment, I finally spoke. Evan, if I agree to this, you'll be working for me from now on. The man's gaze was incredibly serious. Yes, I heard him say. I'm willing. My brother couldn't take it anymore. You're willing, I'm willing, save it for the wedding. Evan, you're a grown man. Do you have to be so cheesy when you're in love? Soon, Evan and I had our wedding. I invited Mia, of course, telling her I'd understand if she didn't want to come because of Alex. But on the wedding day, I saw her. She was so moved watching Evan and me exchange rings that she shed tears. She left shortly after, though. I caught a glimpse of what looked like Alex following her. Before I could look again, Evan turned my face back to him. I heard his deep voice. Your husband is right here. Then he cupped my face, his thin lips pressing precisely onto mine. I mischievously bit his lip, just a little, and heard him let out a soft grunt of pain. Trying to be tough with me, huh? Get ready to sleep on the couch tonight.